How many of you know someone that has heart disease, diabetes, stroke, hypertension, obesity, and those sort of things? Please raise your hand. If you know someone with a disease.
Even yourself.
Pretty much everybody. Well, according to the US statistics, every 13th person suffers from diabetes in the United States. That means more than 8% of the population, or more than 16 million people. 60 million people, 60, suffer from the cardiovascular disease. It kills every third person in the United States. The statistics is staggering. If you are a man, you have 47% chances to get cancer in your life. If you're a woman, 38% chances. You know, very scary, very scary. Let me ask you this. How many of you would like to take a better control of your health and to know how to design your diet? Everyone, of course. In order to do that, I will teach you a few things. Number one, we will discuss how to recognize your health, how to assess your own health on a day-to-day basis. We will talk about what it takes not to lose your health in today's world, which is, it seems to be very difficult, but at the same time, with a few changes in your diet and lifestyle, you'll be able to do that, because your body has an amazing power to recover very quickly, much quicker than to get sick. And also, we will talk about how to design your diet. But before we do that, let me tell you a few words about myself. I am native of the former Soviet Union, came to the United States with my husband almost 23 years, 22 years ago. We had 4 children together. The oldest one is 21 years old, the baby is 2, almost 3 years old. We came here to the States and started working, having babies, and then soon my health went down the road. I became very sick very early in life. I was 25 years old, and I was in the doctor's office every single week with different problems. Until it was really impossible for me to tolerate that. I was stressed out, I was depressed because of that. So I had to do something about my life. The doctors couldn't offer me much help because I was left with lots of medications to take and really no light at the end of the tunnel to see. I refused to stay this way at the age of 30 years old to continue taking medications for the rest of my life. This was not the option for me, and no. So I went on a search, and I decided to change my diet and my lifestyle. This was a whole new science for me to learn. I had never heard of anything like that before, that there is a healthier way of eating. I always thought that my mom cooked healthy, and she did. Everything was homemade, but I never studied nutrition, and I never knew I had to do that. Until I did. I changed my diet. My husband and I moved our children to a different way of eating, and very shortly after we noticed amazing results. Amazing results. 6 months later, I started teaching cooking classes and helping other people because it inspired me so much with the results that my family got. My husband got rid of several issues, myself too, and this was very eye-opening to me. Then I went to study to Boston into a holistic school. Then I returned back home and I continued to inspire other people, slowly starting to give consultations and teaching more and more cooking classes. So for the course of 10 years, I have been teaching at various places like Whole Foods, Progressive Medical Center, publicly and privately, just to inspire people to recover their health. This was very important for me. And I would like to start by introducing you to a story of a man that just recently was able to get a control of his own health. And he's on his way to recovery. His name is Edward. He's 64 years old. Edward has a long history of heart disease, cardiovascular disease, and diabetes. Severe case of diabetes. He has a pacemaker. He had an open heart surgery 10 years ago, or even 20 years ago, I think. And then in the course of 20 years, he had 13 stents in his arteries and veins. Of course, he had a pacemaker, and then 10 years ago, he was diagnosed with diabetes. And he is obese, of course. It comes together. He had been taking insulin shots 4 times a day. Until in September of last year, Edward was admitted to the St. Joseph's Hospital of Atlanta with atrial fibrillation. The doctors explained to him that the upper chamber of his heart, one of the upper chambers, stopped working, and the condition is permanent. The next thing that he will get is a stroke. Of course, it scared him so much. So Edward decided to change his diet. I have to report you 6 months later, now, Edward lost 50 pounds of his weight. He discontinued insulin shots.
Sign me up. Just sign me up.
If anybody wants to talk to Edward, I'll be happy to give you his phone number. But this is a real story of someone that lives not far away from here. He has no longer, no arthritis anymore that he suffered from terribly. He couldn't drive, he couldn't work on the computer, he was in pain all the time. His feet were burning and in pain, he couldn't walk. No longer he has that condition. He suffered from dry skin condition called seborrhea for many years, probably as long as I remember myself, for maybe 40 years or so. He suffered from hard and cracked dry skin on his face, on his neck, on his skull. That is gone. His skin is like new, like baby skin.
You think of that because of the diet?
Because of the diet. He no longer takes medicine for cholesterol.
Are you going to get cooking classes?
I would love to, sure.
I told you, smile, be really nice. We're trying to get her.
We'll get into cooking classes. If there is if people are interested, I'll be more than happy to. So, Edward no longer takes medications for high cholesterol and high blood pressure. Everything is normalized. Diabetes, I said, he does not take insulin shots. He discontinued that. However, he takes half a dose of metformin medicine.
How about the AFib?
It's gone. The doctor that put him on the medicine for AFib said initially that this is impossible to come off of that medicine. He is on that medicine forever. However, last month he was taken off of that medication. He no longer needs it. It sounds like a miracle. It is a miracle. But millions and millions of people in the United States have diabetes and don't even know that there is the other way than taking insulin. Yes? That's a good question. He is exercising. He wasn't able to before. He would fall asleep every 30 minutes. The question was, is he exercising? He is exercising, but I'm trying to explain to you. This is a gentleman who comes from the background of not being able to move much. He would fall asleep every 30 minutes or every hour. Just fall asleep on the couch because he was so lethargic. He didn't have energy. So he had to slowly start exercising with his heart condition especially. He walks every day with his wife, 30 minutes or an hour in the morning, and then in the evening some more. And strictly he keeps his diet, very strictly. I will tell you what he does later, but first we'll discuss some other things. Okay. Great, so let's keep talking. So let's discover what needs to be done on a daily basis to assess your health, because that's what it takes in order to get sick. You don't get sick all of a sudden, right? It takes years, but day by day you go by and you do not recognize the symptoms until one day you get some major disease, some major degenerative disease. Right? So let me ask you a few questions. You don't have to answer, but just recognize in your mind and try to analyze yourself. There are some questions that you can ask yourself on a daily basis in order to know if your health is strong or not. Question number 1. Do you sleep through the night? Do you get an uninterrupted sleep through the night? If you do, great. If you don't, there is a problem. Something's wrong. Either you are under too much stress, or do you get up to urinate, to go to the bathroom a lot at night? You may be having a back pain. If you don't sleep well at night, that means your kidneys do not restore and do not regenerate. And it's a problem. The kidney is the powerhouse of your energy, the powerhouse of your body, okay, the most important organ. It takes a long time to get your kidneys to get weak, but if they get weak, it takes a very long time to get them back on track. Okay? So it's important to get a good night's sleep. If you don't, you have to look into that problem and find out what's going on. Another question, do you urinate more than 5 or 6 times a day? If you do, then it's a problem. You probably have a weak bladder. Maybe you're drinking a lot of liquids that really make you go to the bathroom a lot. But if you do more than 5 or 6 times, then you probably lose some minerals when you urinate a lot, more than 5 or 6 times a day. Meaning weak bladder. Have to look into that. Bladder and kidneys in the Chinese medicine are pairing organs. If one is suffering, if one is weak, then the other one is weak also. Okay. Another question to ask yourself, do you get up at night to urinate? Weak kidneys, so have to look into that also. Do you sweat during the day? Easily. Or you don't sweat? If you don't sweat, you don't discharge toxins from your body. So you need to activate your lymphatic circulation, and there are some things that you can do to improve that also.
You need to sweat.
You need to sweat. Sweat, yes.
Oh, that's it. They tease me in exercise class on Tuesdays because they say I make them sweat. And they tease me on Mondays at line dancing because I make them sweat. Now I will tell them, Victoria said, you have to sweat.
You have to sweat.
Thank you. Thank you, Victoria.
You have to sweat. Then
We don't sweat, we schwitz.
We schwitz.
Right.
Schwitz.
I
Yes.
schwitz.
there are some things that you can do. First of all, continue to make your body sweat. Then do some body rub or dry brush. You know, get a dry brush and scrub your skin. You have to do something to open up your pores so that your body sweats. Lymphatic drainage massage. There are some things. You have to improve your lymphatic circulation. So some other things to ask yourself. Do you have, important question, do you have a bowel movement every single day? That's very important. Okay? If you don't, then there is a problem.
What if you have it 2-3 times a day?
Even better. If you have it 2-3 times a day. There are some visual signs that you can see on your body, and you're welcome, I'll tell you some of them, you're welcome to assess each other. In the Chinese tradition, Chinese medicine, okay, there is a Chinese diagnosis, if you've heard. There is a diagnosis that they use in acupuncture. Okay? It shows you where your body goes, where your body is going to be 5 years down the road, okay, where your health is going to be. So there are some visual signs that will tell you that something's wrong with your health. For example, if you look at this area right here, your eyes, right? Your eyes is an indication of the liver health. Yellowish in the eyes shows you jaundice. Something's wrong with the liver, right? Okay. When your face becomes pale, that's a sign of anemia, possibly. Okay, tight blood circulation. Okay, bags under the eyes shows the condition of your kidneys. Okay, and those are obvious. Many people know about those, right? So kidneys get tight or constricted because of maybe too much salt or too much sugar, too many liquids. Dark circles under the eyes. Also, it's an indication of tight circulation. You don't get a good night's sleep, perhaps, or you eat too much salt, so you get dark circles under the eyes. Your forehead. Forehead is an indication of your digestive system. Every time you have horizontal lines on the face, it shows the expansion of the organs.
What if it's old age?
It could be. I'm not talking about extreme situation like old age, old age. But generally speaking, you know, people that are even younger have that. Every time you have vertical lines, that shows a constriction in the organs in the body. Okay? So horizontal lines, that could be an indication of bloated intestines. Bloated intestines, inflamed intestines. Pimples on the forehead. You can look at each other and see if you find something. Pimples on the forehead, that's an indication of fat and mucus gathering in there around this organ that comes from too much sugar, too many fats, okay? Usually too much sugar.
And what was that again?
Pimples on the forehead, okay? Another thing that to consider would be looking at your nose, especially the tip of your nose. That's an indication of cardiovascular health. Every time it goes on, especially when people get older, every time it bulges, every time it gets expanded and hard and changes in color, especially gets purple or bright red. It could be, but also the nose itself, the tip of your nose, that shows your heart is going towards expansion, going towards a heart attack. Especially men get that. That's very easy to see, by the way, in people. Especially, you know, really inflamed right here and hard and purple color. Sometimes you can't come and say to the person, hey, you have to look at your heart health. Go to the doctor.
One time I was told that if your nose is purple, that you are a drinker.
Yes, because drinking alcohol affects your, you know, swells your heart. Exactly. That's a direct connection. That's a direct connection. Look at your lips. Lips is an indication of this is the beginning of the tube of the digestive system, right? That's an indication of your digestion. Sometimes you see, especially the bottom lip, it's hanging out. It's much more swollen than the upper lip, bigger in size and puffier, right? That shows the condition of your colon. Colon. The lower lip.
And what was the upper?
The upper lip is more small intestines and pancreas, especially if it's tight and inverted. It shows tightness in those organs, especially pancreas. Now, if you see sometimes one side of the lip is puffier than the other one, the bottom lip, okay? If it's the left side, that shows the descending colon. The left side of your colon is swollen. The right side will show the ascending colon, the swellings, okay? So that's easy to see. Cold sores, people get cold sores. That's a sign of acidity in the digestive system. Every time we get a cold or a flu, that's basically we're trying to discharge the acidity from the body. Okay? Eat acidic foods during the summertime,
Right.
for example.
Yeah.
Lots of sugar, maybe fruits, especially tropical fruits. Then when the weather changes and it gets colder, we contract, so we start to discharge all this excess liquid and all the acidity, and we get colds and flus. It's just a natural way of discharging.
So it's the body purifying itself.
Exactly, the body is trying to purify itself.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sometimes that happens when our immunity lowers too. Immunity goes down and we get sick because it's easier to get acidic when your immunity is low.
I see.
Okay. Let's talk about 3 things that are important for strong health. The 3 things are high blood pressure. Well, of course, but that comes from those 3 things. Number 1, we have to have 3 good things in the body. Number 1 good is digestion. Number 2, we have to have good blood circulation. Number 3, we have to have good, stable blood sugar. Stable blood sugar. When those 3 things are in place, we are much better off. We're able to fight the disease. We're not going to get the degenerative disease that is so prevalent in the United States today. Okay. Let's look at the digestion. Everything we eat becomes part of our intestine, right? Everything we eat goes into the mouth, then down the esophagus, then to the stomach, and then enters the small intestine and out through the colon, right? The intestine it's very long and it has this kind of convoluted forms like our brain. Inside the tube itself, there are small villi that absorb nutrition. The food goes in through the intestine, the villi absorb the nutrition, and then what's absorbed is entering the bloodstream. What's not absorbed goes out through the colon, out, is discharged, right? By the way, I have to tell you about, before I forgot, this right here, the way our intestine looks. Often people get headaches, and it's connected with the digestion part, okay? And especially with constipation. Often people get constipated and they get headaches. Once you're relieved, then the headache goes away. Some people pay attention to that, some don't. But there is a direct connection between those 2 things. In fact, if someone has a brain tumor, God forbid, if you all of a sudden start constipating, that means that the brain tumor is in a state of growth. So there is a direct connection. That's not good at all. Okay. Let me ask you a question. How many of you had a satisfactory bowel movement this morning, honestly? Not very many. Not very many. Do you know that millions and hundreds of millions Americans suffer from not going to the bathroom every day. Between 30 and 70% do. If you go to a Western doctor, just to a regular doctor, they will tell you going to the bathroom once a week is normal. Some doctors say that. However, if you go to a holistic doctor will tell you, you have to empty out your pipes every single day. Otherwise, if you don't empty out, then the stuff ferments in your body and then reabsorbs back into the blood and creates so much acidity. And that's where a whole slew of problems come out from that. All the degenerative disease. This is the start, not being able to use the bathroom regularly. Exactly. You have to eat certain foods that promote a good bowel movement, of course. There was a doctor by the name Dennis Burkitt. There was a group of researchers. One of them was Dr. Dennis Burkitt that studied digestion, and he studied the Western diseases and the Western diet and how that affects people's digestion. So after the Second World War, he was conducting his studies in Africa. What he did, he studied the bowel transit time. He found out that African group passes their bowels within 15 to 22 hours. And then he compared it to the British group, who passed their bowels 3 days to 2 weeks. Not only because of their Western diet. Dr. Dennis Burkitt, nobody asks me how he found out, how did he study this bowel transit time?
It was a dirty job.
It was a dirty job, but there was a way of doing it. So he and his group gave those people they studied millet, raw millet seeds to swallow, to eat. And then they saw when it came out. Okay? So he compared. He was the first doctor who gave the name Western disease or degenerative diseases. Okay? So those came into the picture shortly after white flour and sugar traveled to the Europe. People's diet changed, and then cases of heart disease and cancer were registered in Europe. Okay, we all know that. So Dr. Dennis Burkitt was the one who studied that. I would like to show you one simple exercise that you can do every single day to improve that peristalsis in your digestive system, of your intestines, and reduce bloating, and really feel completely different and energized. And by the way, it will change the shape of your body too. So everybody, please get up if you can. Now you can place 1 or 2 hands on your stomach, on your abdomen. Exactly. So what you have to do, breathe in and pump your stomach out. And then breathe out, pump it in for a few minutes.
How many times?
As many times as you can. Try to do it in front of the TV or however you want to do. And try to make it up to 100 to 200 times a day.
So you breathe out and it goes in?
You breathe out, goes in. You breathe in and it goes out. There is another version of doing it. You can stand like this. Like this. You do the same thing. In and out, in and out. Okay. First of all, you exercise your abdomen muscles, which is great. You don't have to do sit-ups or anything like that. This is great. It's a great exercise. This will improve your digestion. Okay? Right. Exactly. Exactly, that's what I'm talking about. You exercise, you change the shape of your abdomen, of course, you become a lot more. First of all, it will support your spine too. Okay, if you have stronger muscles here, that will support your spine. You will change the way you stand. Okay, you will have a better figure too. So that's one single exercise that can change a lot in your health, along with some dietary changes too. Let's look at the other part of good health, stable blood sugar. Stable blood sugar, what does it mean to you? Tell me. Right. What is blood sugar? Where does it come from?
The foods and
The
the way that
food we
it's
eat.
changing in our body, like the glucose or the way the food is kind of breaking down in our body.
Right. Right. Carbohydrates change into sugar. Carbohydrates. People are so afraid of this word, carbohydrates, right? Oh, you should stay away from carbs. Do you know how many people are afraid of carbohydrates? Enormous. We just went to New York 2 weeks ago, and every single person I encountered, people who came to us for advice, everybody said, "Oh, I am on. All the doctors here recommend no carbohydrates. You know, that's no, because I mean, you should stay away from." But people don't really understand what they're talking about. You know, all carbohydrates, all sugars can be broken down into two groups called simple and complex. Simple carbohydrates and complex. How do you tell the difference? What are simple carbohydrates and what are complex? Anything that tastes sweet would be a simple carbohydrate. Sweets. Which one? Potatoes is also, yes, it's also more with simple carbohydrates. Simple carbohydrates, those are carbohydrates that absorb into your bloodstream much faster than complex. Why is it? Simple carbohydrates have really simple molecule structure. Okay, it's one or two molecules that are bound to each other. Does not require much digestion. The minute it's on your tongue, it soaks into your bloodstream. Versus complex carbohydrates, it's longer chains of molecules that require breaking down. Okay, so polysaccharides need to be broken down into disaccharides and into monosaccharides. But all carbohydrates, whether it's simple or complex, in the body, they have to be broken down into what?
Energy?
Into glucose. Exactly. Because it's the only form that our body is able to utilize. It's the food for your brain, glucose. So whether it's simple carbohydrates or complex, they have to turn into glucose in the body. If it's simple, it's already something like glucose. It doesn't require digestion, so it's in your bloodstream immediately. Okay? Now, if it's a complex carbohydrate, like, what are some examples of complex carbohydrates? What?
Meat.
Meat is more protein. Protein has no carbohydrates.
Spaghetti.
Spaghetti is more simple because it's processed. Whole grains, something unprocessed. Whole grains.
What about the carbs that are in vegetables? Is that simple or complex?
Vegetables is also
Vegetables?
a complex carbohydrate. Whole grains, vegetables, beans also. Now, simple carbohydrates. What are some examples?
Candy.
Candy, of course.
Desserts.
Desserts, yes. Sweet desserts. Fruits also.
Fruits, yes.
Fructose, yes. Also honey. Molasses. Yes, white sugar.
Where do the sweeteners fall, Victoria?
What kind of
Like
sweeteners?
the Equal, the Splenda, the Agave, the...
Simple
all the
sugars.
simple.
Right.
They still have that character.
White sugar. Brown sugar also. Yes. Brown sugar too. The list is very long. Those are simple carbohydrates that immediately are absorbed into the bloodstream, therefore raising our blood sugar. Yes.
What about sweet vegetables, like sweet carrots or sweet potatoes?
So those are a category of complex carbohydrates, even though they're sweet, just because they have a lot of fiber. Along with the sugar molecule, there's fiber. Fiber is more of an insoluble carbohydrate, right? So when fiber coats the sugar molecules, it does not allow that sugar molecule absorb into the bloodstream so fast. It carries it through the whole digestive process.
I get why they say you look at carbohydrates, but then you look at the fiber content to determine what its net carb. I got it.
Exactly. That's the key, how to treat someone with diabetes.
I love learning.
You have
I
to
love learning.
Exactly. When you eat sugar, it has to be accompanied with fiber in order for that sugar not to get absorbed into the bloodstream so fast. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Peanuts are more fats than carbohydrates because they're fats. Okay. It doesn't have much fiber.
It has a lot of oil to it.
Right, oil is fat. It's a category of fats. So we have three groups of macronutrients, what we call them, fats, proteins, and carbohydrates, right? And we have micronutrients that are vitamins and minerals.
How about tree nuts?
Tree nuts, any nuts would be fats. Yeah, they're oil. Now, look at this, whole grains, vegetables, beans, they all have fiber in them, okay? So which one of the three has the most fiber content? Do you know?
The vegetables.
The beans. What's your name? Loretta? Loretta was right. Beans, okay? The highest content of fiber. But beans are tricky, they are also protein.
Right.
This is the source of plant-based protein as well as fiber. Okay, so let's go back to how sugars work in the body. It's very important to understand that concept. So I'd like for you to remember it better. Help me in playing something here on the stage. So let me call someone who wants to be pancreas. Someone up here.
Wants to be what?
Pancreas. Okay. This is the worst. Okay. This is our pancreas. Now let me call someone who wants to be the star of the show and demonstrate insulin.
Oh, you know.
Charlotte, yes, Charlotte. Charlotte.
Okay. Now let's get another important figure who wants to be the liver. Yeah.
Go, Sarah. Go, Sarah.
Go, Sarah.
Limits with onions.
Yes, liver with onions.
I know.
Okay, so the liver will stand right here.
Oliver.
Okay, so our insulin, our pancreas. Who wants to be? I need about 4 sugar molecules.
I'm sweet. I'm a sweet.
Okay, win.
I'm always a sweet.
Great. 2 more.
Come on, Nona, you can be sweet. Come on, Nona. Nona's sweet. Carol, you're sweet. Come on.
I remember once you said you always wanted to be the insulin. You forgot, I remember. By the way, I have to mention that Miss Carol Feinberg is one of my favorite people. She always comes to my classes, always. In the last, well, how many years? She's always participated in all my cooking classes. Where? Different places. You know, I can come here.
Yes.
And you know, usually we can set up everywhere. Private classes, public classes. She came first when I started, when I lived at the Calabria Woods apartment complex, and where she lives too. I gave monthly cooking classes for the community there. That's how we met each other. So then, right, so many years ago, approximately 8 years ago. But then she came to my other, wherever I taught, plus including classes at my house when I conduct them. So she comes to my house too. But you know, she's been to so many classes over the years. One of my favorite people. So we have,
Mutual admiration.
thank you, dear. We have how many? 4?
4 sugars. We're sweet.
Now we need 2 people to show a blood cell gates. Gates to the blood cell. To the body cell, I'm sorry.
Come on, Phyllis. Come on.
Phyllis, one
Sarah,
person
come on.
wants to be your partner.
Sarah's quiet. Sarah. Marsha. Come on. She's
Okay,
that was
guys,
like-
let's make it
Come on,
faster.
Marsha.
Fast, please respond to participate faster.
Process of elimination. We're studying about.
There are gates to the body cells. Okay, so let's look at the body, gates to the body cells. Can stand right here for me, please? Thank you. Gates to the body cells, hold each other's hands, please. You hold each other's hands. You're the gates, okay? You're the gates. Okay, so what happens when you eat food? Your blood sugar goes up, right?
Right.
Exactly. Then the body, the pancreas, so when the blood sugar goes up, what happens next? Our pancreas right here, gets the signal. Oh, there is so much blood sugar in the blood. We have to do something about it. So pancreas calls for the insulin. This is, what is insulin? Do you know? What is insulin? First of all, insulin is a hormone, right? It's a hormone that is released by your pancreas in order to take care of the blood sugar. How does it take care of it? It lowers it, but what does it do? Does it eat it, or what does it do? How does it lower it? Right, how? What's the job of insulin?
There's something in the blood.
So, what the insulin does, first of all, insulin goes to stimulate the cells of the body, the gates of the body cells.
Watch what you
Open up. This is what it does. But then the sugar molecules, 2 of you, or one, just one. Just one. Please open up. I want to get that glucose into the cell. So you open up. So that the glucose can go into the glucose. No, just the glucose. You're staying in the blood. Insulin is in the blood. But when the body cell accepts this glucose, it's able to utilize it. Then you get more energy. Exactly. Then you can burn it, right, for the energy. So the glucose is accepted. However, we ate so much sugar that the rest of you are still circulating in the blood. Please circulate. Please circulate. Please circulate. Right, you circulate and circulate. Now, insulin freaks out. I have to do something about it, right? So insulin takes all of this sugar cells, not like that. Like this. Let's stand behind. Let's go. Insulin goes to us help from liver. Okay, let's go to the liver. Let's go to the liver. We all are going to the liver. Where is the liver?
She's over there.
Okay. Watch the wire, please. Knock, knock. Dear liver, help me. I have this whole load of blood sugar that I have to get to somewhere. It's very dangerous. You have to help me. The liver says, no, I can't. Because my hotel is so small. My capacity is so small. I can only have 60 to 80 grams of sugar keep inside of me. That's it. But then the pancreas,
That's fine.
but then the insulin says, I'm sorry, honey, but you have to help me. I have to get all these sugar cells somewhere. So the liver says, okay, let me do this. Let's take all these sugar molecules and store them into our least used body tissues like buttocks and abdomen right here. Exactly. That's what happens. That's where it goes. Until we need them again. Until we go to exercise, and then the body can use those stores loads of sugar that are called glycogen. You know, they pack them down together very tightly and stores them in our tissues, muscles and tissue bodies, mostly in the fatty tissues, okay, in the form of stored sugar, until we need to release it again. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Exactly. Thank you so much. But now do you get the picture how it works?
Yes.
So how do I get rid of the extra?
How do you get rid of the extra? Number one, exercise. Number two, change your diet, which we'll talk about in a second.
Okay.
So we keep eating sugar.
I'm getting there. Thank you. I'm getting to the low sugar part. Lifting weights also helps you burn sugar too. But because we don't exercise, our muscles are already full chunk of sugar. They don't have place to store more sugar, right? That's why it goes into the fatty tissues. Okay, so exercising is important, especially for women of 40 years old. Like the older we get, the more we need to exercise, not only to stabilize our blood sugar, but also to keep our bones strong. Of course, immune system, but to keep our bones strong. Okay, that's a whole different topic. We can discuss maybe another time. Osteoporosis and strong bone health, which is important too. Exercise, walk a lot. Okay, make your bones work.
Okay, so the pancreas lets the insulin out.
Right.
Then the insulin goes to the body cells and opens them up.
Stimulates the gates of the body cells.
So that one of the sugars can go in.
So that glucose can enter the cells
Okay.
to be utilized. Okay?
And
To be
then the other
utilized.
sugars
The rest of the sugar
are trying to
is
find a place. So
Right.
they go over to the liver. and
whatever
then-
liver can store, it stores.
Okay.
The rest is stored in the other tissue, like fatty tissues of the body. Okay.
Thank you.
Now, what happens? All the sugar is out of the way. The glucose level in the blood goes down. And what happens to us? How do we feel?
Oh,
We
very
feel
tired.
tired.
Very tired.
We feel very tired. You know, this condition of a chronic low blood sugar called hypoglycemia is not fun. You know, when you feel very tired and lethargic, you know, your brain doesn't function because your brain needs glucose to function, right? You feel tired, you want to sleep, and you want to eat more sugar. Exactly. So this roller coaster goes on and on, all day long, like that. You wake up, first of all, the insulin that travels in your blood makes you feel tired too, especially at night. When you go to sleep, the insulin is still in the blood, traveling. You wake up really tired because you have, in the morning, when you wake up, it's the point where you have the lowest blood sugar, okay? That's why you need something. You need a cup of coffee, you need something to eat. You have to have breakfast, okay? Which is great, you have to have breakfast, but what kind of breakfast is important. If you eat something that doesn't have much fiber and is high in sugar, simple sugar, it will raise your blood sugar again, insulin comes out, takes care of that sugar, and then the levels go down and you feel tired again. So an hour later you need something else to pick it up, and that goes on and on and on like that.
Well, Victoria, it seems
Yes.
like we've always pushed cereal in the morning for breakfast.
Bingo!
And then by the middle of the morning, you are like, oh my goodness. But you think, I've had my cereal.
I've had my cereal.
My raisin bran or my...
It's just instilled in our brains.
Wow.
So, the best food for us would be something that is whole and unprocessed, okay? Something, instead of processed cereal, eat whole grain cereal, like oatmeal, cooked steel-cut oats, for example. One of the examples. I don't want to get into that right now. We will in just a minute, but there you go. You already start processing and thinking about it. I don't give cereal to my children. I don't have cereal boxes in my house at all. Good.
What do you use?
Shredded wheat.
Whole grain cereal. I cook steel-cut oats or millet or buckwheat or something, you know, rice.
Shredded wheat is good, it doesn't have any sugar.
Which one?
Shredded wheat has no sugar.
That's right, but you know, something that needs to be cooked, not within 5 minutes. Oatmeal, not the flat oats, but steel-cut oats. Or whole oats would be better.
Oatmeal is not okay?
Oatmeal,
Just plain.
just plain, you mean rolled oats?
Yep, not instant.
Not, you know, sometimes, but better if you do more of steel-cut oats than just instant, like the rolled oats all the time. Okay, so let's go back to the blood sugar. So you see, you get the picture. At the end of the day, you feel like, oh my God, I had such a difficult day. I'm so tired, just because you worked your organs so hard. And this is how we age. Because we shift our body from one extreme to the other extreme every day like that. Okay? So that's important to know how. In fact, this is important to know if you have diabetes, how your blood sugar works. So you eat something, you know this food will raise my blood sugar. Then check your blood after you eat 1 hour later, and you'll see how your blood sugar goes up. Okay? And then you'll know what food will raise it, what food will not, and you can control your blood sugar only just doing a healthy diet.
Right, so if it's low glycemic, it doesn't raise your sugar.
Exactly. If it's low glycemic, it doesn't raise your blood sugar. So then you can, if it's high glycemic, there are some things you can do about it to lower it. For example, eat it with more fiber, okay, more vegetables in your meal. Or add some fat, healthy oils, so that will, fat is more like a buffer. It's not going to some extent, it's not going to let glucose absorb into the bloodstream so fast.
My doctor went from after I had a test.
Okay. After you had a test, that's good. High fiber diet is important because fiber helps to swell, right? In the intestines, it swells and it absorbs all the toxins and removes it from the body, absorbs excess cholesterol, also excess estrogens, and takes it out. So fiber does so many things for your health. That's important. So another important thing to consider would be, already raised it, but good blood circulation. Okay? Do you know that our blood consists of, everybody knows that, red blood cells, white blood cells, right? Blood plasma. Red blood cells, what do? carry the oxygen, exactly. Carry the oxygen to our organs and tissues. So it has a form, shape like this. Right? So this back wall of the red blood cell is able to pick up oxygen from the lungs. So oxygen sticks to the red blood cell, and then it carries it to the organs and tissues, and then picks up some carbon dioxide and delivers it back to the lungs to be released, right? So what happens if those red blood cells clump up together like this, stick to each other? Then the capacity, the oxygen capacity reduces, right? But why does this happen? Where does it come from? From our diet. Okay? So when we eat a diet high in fat, saturated fats especially, so red blood cells stick to each other, clump up, then the oxygenation is diminished. So they did an experiment. They fed baby hamsters 78% fat diet. Okay. Within 5 to 7 hours, those baby hamsters became lethargic and really tired, and the oxygenation capacity reduced by 33%. Okay. They had less oxygen in the blood. Yes.
Because of high fat diet?
Because of high fat
We
diet.
have Eskimos and other indigenous people like that who eat high fat diet.
Well, that's different. They're able to, because that fat keeps them warm, okay? That in their condition, in their altitude, yes. But generally speaking, then the researcher thought, I have to do something about it. What can I do? Let's declump those red blood cells and see what happens. So he fed them a diet low in fat, and within 72 hours, baby hamsters came back to normal. Then he thought, people eat high-fat diets, high in saturated fat, every single day. So they stay in this condition permanently. It's called sticky blood syndrome. Okay. So that's very dangerous. People don't think, the problem of fats is important. Saturated fat, where can you find saturated fat? Oh, I can, like everybody talks at the same, cakes, cookies, right? What is saturated fat?
Hydrogenated fat.
Hydrogenated fats? Sort of, yes. But those are dangerous too. Saturated fat is the fat that solidifies at the room temperature, becomes solid, right? Animal fat, if you cook soup, when it's room temperature, you see the fat becomes solid on top of the soup, right?
Chicken soup.
Exactly, chicken soup. It's called saturated fat. Butter is saturated fat.
That's not good.
That's not good. Liquid oils are poly and monounsaturated fats. That's what we need to consume, okay? More of like olive oil, sesame oil, avocado oil, grapeseed oil. Those are like the healthier oils.
So the coconut oil is,
It's saturated fat.
because it's solid.
It's solid, exactly. Which one? Extra virgin olive oil is good for you too. But also with fats, you have to remember how much you eat. Okay. Let me explain to you. Plus, now we got to the part where I can show you what Edward did for his diet in order to heal. No, this is important. Simple and complex carbohydrates. So, what kind of carbohydrates do we have to have on a daily basis? Complex, exactly. Less simple, more complex. Okay? If you can exclude simple for the most part, for the most days, that would be perfect. First of all, you'll have so much more energy. Okay? Don't you need what? Fruit? You do. It depends. Again, it depends. It depends on your health condition, depends on the season, depends on many factors. Of course you do. Of course, rather than eating something sugary and sweet, you can have a piece of fruit and satisfy your sweet craving, because first of all, fruit has fiber in it, right? And that fruit, sugar from the fruit, fructose, does not raise your blood sugar. That's important. It may contribute to some other problems, like creates more acidity in the body, but other than that, it doesn't raise your blood sugar because it has fiber in it. Other sweets, like let's say a Hershey bar, for example, has 5 to 7, small Hershey bar, 5 to 7 teaspoons of sugar, right? To produce 1 teaspoon of sugar, it takes how many feet of sugar cane, do you know? 3 feet of sugar cane, just to produce 1 teaspoon of sugar.
The long sugar cane?
Yes, the long sugar cane. Now, a can of Coca-Cola, how many teaspoons of sugar does it have? 10 to 12. So how many feet of sugar cane does it take?
36.
Exactly. 30 to 36 feet of sugar cane goes into the can of Coca-Cola. Plus, it has no fiber. So all that sugar goes straight into your bloodstream. Okay? People don't think about it. No. We consume about 160 pounds of sugar per year. That's not counting fructose, plus fruit and honey and stuff like that. Yeah, junk food, exactly. So, what I would like for you to think about is, when you plan your meals, how do you do that? How do you plan? Okay, I'm going to cook my dinner.
I'm a vegetarian, so I have to count my protein and fibers.
Okay, so we think in terms of, most people think in terms of how much protein I have to have, and then what goes in addition to that, right? Protein is the centerpiece. So I would like to offer you another concept. The concept is like this. Start thinking about your diet in terms of principal foods and complementary foods. Okay. Most people don't do that. They just eat what they like, or what's available, or just whatever, just to eat. Okay. So, but if you think in terms of principal foods are foods that sustain your body, gives you energy, gives you nutrition, and complementary that needs to be consumed in moderation, but that complements your principal food. Okay? So in America, principal food would be considered as, say, like this. Principal food, whole grains. I'm not talking about processed grains like white rice. I'm talking more about whole, unprocessed grains. Like what? Brown rice, red rice, sure, barley. Lentils are beans. Lentils are protein, beans. Okay? Lentils are not grains. So it's more millet, brown rice, barley, could be buckwheat. Couscous is a processed grain. Okay? Bulgur is a processed, partially processed grain also. Oats, amaranth, quinoa. If you're trying to keep gluten-free diet, then barley and wheat is out. Okay? So you're more sticking with brown rice, quinoa, buckwheat, those type of grains. Then vegetables. Vegetables could be leafy green vegetables. We all know those that grow above the ground, like hard leafy vegetables. Collard greens, kale, mustard greens, daikon tops, carrot tops, turnip tops. Then round vegetables like Brussels sprouts, like cabbage, like squashes, all kinds of different squashes. Cauliflower. Kale was leafy green vegetable, right? Use all of them. And also root vegetables. Root vegetables like carrots and parsnips, and a very good root called burdock root or gobo root, burdock. Okay? It's a very strengthening root. It looks like a tree branch. Burdock. I use that root a lot because that helps to strengthen the lower part of your body, your digestion, your legs. You know, every time we have problems in this area, in these organs, we get weak down here in your legs.
Where do you find that?
You can find it sometimes at Whole Foods, more often at Beaufort Market. They always have it. The Cap Market always has it. Sometimes it's called gobo or kobo.
What's it look like?
It looks like a brown tree branch, like a tree branch.
Okay,
Tree
Victoria.
branch, like a.
So would you, if you just, in your thought, would you do it if we had a trip to the international market? Could you teach us?
I would love to do that. The
Okay.
trip to the international market.
Okay.
Sure. Show you all the roots, very important ones. Sure. So all the vegetables,
I'm working, I'm
round,
trying.
root, and leafy are great. Use them.
Okay.
Corn is also a vegetable. Corn on the cob. But corn, make sure when you get it, it needs to be organic or non-GMO. Corn needs to be non-GMO or organic. Because corn is the most genetically modified product, okay, in this country. Soybeans, corn, potatoes, tomatoes, you know, those ones. So better to get organic. So this is just an example, gobo root. Okay, if you start using it today, it would be great. It's good for osteoporosis, it's good for digestive disorders, great for stabilizing your blood sugar because this root contains carbohydrate called inulin. Inulin. Just chop it up, put in soups. The easiest way. Yep. So inulin does not allow blood sugar absorb into you, does not raise your blood sugar. So basically, burdock root is one of the foods that contains this important inulin, which is good for diabetes. Okay. Now, the next thing, principal foods would be beans. So the majority of your diet should consist of whole grains, vegetables, some beans, not a lot, but some beans. There are also proper techniques that we use in order to cook the beans so that they're more digestible. You have to soak them, discard the soaking water. When you cook it, skim the foam and use sea vegetables to cook with it, a small piece of seaweed to neutralize the gas. So that they're easier to digest. Because beans contain fat and protein.
So canned beans is no good.
Canned beans are fine if you choose to use them. Just make sure you get this brand, Eden. This is kosher. If non-kosher, a good brand would be West Bray. Whole Foods has them.
And this is canned.
This is canned. They are non-lead, and they're also, Eden especially uses kombu seaweed to cook their beans, so they're more digestible. If you were to use canned beans, I would discard the water, the liquid, and then I would reconstitute those beans by cooking them some more and adding some vegetables or other ingredients to it for a few more minutes. Okay? So, now, whole grains, vegetables, beans, this is your principal food. Those foods will sustain your energy. They will provide important nutrients for your body. Okay? And then there are complementary foods that can go along with it. Those would be, let's say, fats like oils, nuts, seeds, some animal food. I would say whatever you choose. I would prefer to use fish. if you choose to, once a month, be careful about how much protein, especially animal protein, you consume, because that has some negative effect on your body if you overdo. It's high in acids, lots of different acids that really disrupt your acid-alkaline balance in the body, and then weakens your bones, weakens your kidneys and your bones. Plus, it has saturated fat in it too, so we have to be careful about that. Now, a small amount could be fruits, beverages, new foods like seaweeds, for example. Seaweed is kosher. It depends. Most seaweeds, dried seaweeds, they are kosher because they aren't processed. There is one that needs to have hashkacha. It's called nori. Those are sheets of seaweed that you wrap sushi in. So that needs to be kosher. That needs to have a kosher sign on it.
You mean that seaweed they have at Costco?
I mean the dried seaweed, like unprocessed, like wakame. I mean, this is something that needs to be paid attention to and studied before you use it. Probably, it's not. I'm not talking about the seaweed salads that they sell at farmer markets or Costco. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about dried seaweed that's sold, that you buy, and you use small pieces of it in cooking yourself. All you need is just a small amount of seaweed on a daily basis, but that will keep your bones strong, that will keep you more alkaline, and really will bring more vitamins and minerals into your body. Okay? Now, a small amount of foods that are called anything you want. Whatever you want. Okay. But then also you have to be mindful of how much and where and when. Depends on your health condition. If you're in healing, maybe you should stay away from whatever you want for a certain period of time until you heal, until you get better. Okay. I wanted to come back and really place accent again, highlight whole grains, the importance of using whole grains in your diet. Even though, people that say stay away from whole grains, they probably talk more about, worry more about gluten sensitivity and maybe phytic acid content in it. But grains offer you so much. Let me explain to you a few benefits of eating whole grains. First of all, because of the fiber, right? Whole grains help to stabilize your blood sugar and diminish your cravings for sweets. Whole grains, because of the fiber, help to improve your bowel movement. Okay? They are unprocessed. They still contain all the fiber in them. They help to reduce cholesterol in the body because fiber takes out excess cholesterol, as well as whole grains help to reduce estrogens in the body. Okay? Takes out excess estrogen with fiber. Also, whole grains, especially brown rice, absorbs toxins from the body and removes them out. So there are so many different benefits. Please use it. I would say that our blood plasma changes within 10 to 12 days. Whatever you eat today, will circulate in your blood for the next 10 to 12 days, then your blood plasma starts to change. Within 120 days, 120 to 128 days, that's when your red blood cells change in the body. That basically takes 3 to 4 months, right? So whatever you eat today, every day, with every bite, you improve your health. Okay, after 3 to 4 months, you start seeing some major changes. Now, within 2 years, you can see even more changes in your body. So it takes one meal at a time. So I would challenge you to really learn some new foods, to really look and analyze your diet, your exercise, and start implementing some changes. Maybe get a cookbook, sign up for a cooking class, invite me here. I'd love to come and give you a cooking class. And maybe let's take a trip to the farmer market and we can learn about new foods that you can implement into your diet. Once you start taking out all bad foods, at the same time start adding some new foods and you'll start to notice how you feel, okay? So I want to challenge you today.
Edward, are you going to get back to Edward?
To Edward,
That's what he's been eating.
That's what we were.
this is what Edward has been doing. I already explained to you the changes that he has had. If anybody would like to meet Edward or talk to him, I'll be happy to provide that information for you. Well, thank you so much for supporting me, for listening, for giving me your time, for letting me complete my project. I appreciate you, and I'm happy to meet you today, and hopefully this will lead to a future relationship.